Hello guys, welcome back to another video. So we are working on the BMW 760 Ally project again, and we're going to be servicing the 6-speed ZF transmission today. This is something that I've never done before. I've pretty much only owned manual transmission cars up to this point, so I'm pretty excited to really get stuck in and see what it's about. Now, I really have no history of this transmission in this car ever being serviced. It has covered 145,000 miles, so it is going to be interesting to see what kind of state the original fluid is in. But yeah, we are going to be doing a full service. Now we're going to be replacing the pan, which has the filter built into it, and we're also going to be replacing out the Mechatronic sleeves and the plug connector seal as well. Now then, a company called Gearbox Oils Limited have kindly supplied the parts for this video. I'll show you exactly what is included in the kit in just a moment, but we'll leave all of their details down in the description box below. So if you want to, maybe service your own transmission, or you want to check out what other parts they have to offer, please do go and check them out. Now here is what is included in the 6-speed ZF transmission service kit. So you get the pan, like I said, because you have the filter that is built into it. This is a genuine ZF transmission pan, by the way. When it comes to servicing your ZF transmissions, do not skimp out. You need to go genuine, believe me on that. That comes with all new bolts, by the way, so no need to retain your original. You get some nice new ones. And then the service kit also comes with 7 litres of the ZF transmission fluid. This is the correct stuff for my transmission. And because we are doing the Mechatronic seals as well as the transmission service, I have all of those just here. Link for these will also be down in the description box below. But without further ado, let's get outside and let's get cracking. Okay, so as you can see, we have the 760 Ally now up in the air. Now it's very important that the car is level when it comes to the filling of the transmission. To get the correct required level, you need the transmission to be level. Now what we need to do then is head underneath the car and remove the transmission tray. It is just held in by some 8mm bolts. I believe there is one in each corner, and then some on that heat shield over there. So let's get this removed first, and we can see the transmission itself. Okay, so those 2 heat shields are actually attached to this transmission cover. So there's just an 8mm screw in each corner, and then that just drops down. The next thing we need to do then is start draining the fluid, and to do that all we need to do is remove this drain plug here. All you need is a 10mm Allen bit or Allen key. Get in there. It shouldn't be very tight at all. I think it's 8 Newton meters, so this thing should not be tight. But before we remove that, we want to make sure that we can remove the fill plug, which is on the side. It's just up here, and that is held in by a 8mm Allen bolt. So we need to try and crack that loose first, and then if we can crack that loose, we can proceed in draining from the drain plug. Oh, yeah. Jesus Christ. That did not fill up 35 Newton meters. That was 135. Right. That's why you make sure you can get this thing loose before you start draining the fluid. But yeah, that appears to be loose now. That was relatively uneventful. So the drain plug removed. I do have a replacement one of these, by the way. It's good practice to replace this because it does have a seal on it and it does look pretty crushed. So yeah, I guess we'll just leave this to finish draining. Now you're not going to get every last drop out of here because where it drains from, that's kind of at the highest point of the pan, so there will still be some fluid around here, but I'll leave this to drip for as long as possible. Okay, so I've reinstalled the drain plug because the transmission pan has pretty much finished draining now. Next thing we can do is, if we take a look up here, it's going to be pretty difficult to show you, but up through this gap here between the transmission and the exhaust, there is the plug connector that plugs into the Mechatronics unit. So essentially we just need to twist that and then it should disconnect from the Mechatronics itself. We need to disconnect that before we can lower the entire valve body once we've removed the pan, obviously, but I'm going to do that now just to save messing around while this whole transmission is just dripping fluid in my face. So yeah, if you can see that up there, then that is what you need to disconnect. If you can't, then I do apologise. So I've managed to disconnect that plug up there then. Actually came undone fairly easy. I just pushed a screwdriver against it and it just twisted out. So yeah, there's that. And now what I can do is start releasing all of the T40 bolts that hold the transmission pan in place. These again should not be tight. I'm just going to crack them loose with the ratchet, then I'll use the impact wrench. Okay, so I need to think about what I'm going to do now. I've only got the 4 corner bolts in place. Obviously when I lower this, I'm going to have some more fluid drain out, so I need to try and do it with as little mess as possible. I've got an idea. I'm going to get a stool, if it'll fit under here, place that here, undo the bolts, then lower this onto the stool, then I can leave it dripping then. Let's get that stool. All of the bolts out. Need to lower this down now. We have lift off. Just lower it carefully into the stool. We don't have too much drippage, so I did leave it to drain for a good while. That's good. I'm going to remove the stool now. Oh, that wasn't a good idea. Oh, that wasn't a good idea. Didn't realise there was that much in there. So just taking a look at the filter pan then, I can't visually see any big chunks of metal. Now obviously we have the 2 magnets here. If I wipe my finger on them, you can see we do have some, well, it must be very, very fine metal shavings. But I mean, I don't know how much is normal, but yeah, we do have some in there. But yeah, I can't see any massive chunks, so I guess that's good. Is this normal wear? I don't know, but yeah, there's a little bit of colour to the fluid. It's not like you know, completely black. So whether or not this has had a change in the past, I don't know. Obviously we hope it has, but there's a good chance that it also hasn't as well. Okay, so I've made a discovery. We actually have a date on this, and it looks like it's 2017. There's a 20 pointing to a 17, and then I don't know what that one means. It's like pointing to a 7, so I guess that's like the 7th month, so like July 2017 I guess this was made. And if you have a look on here, you can see it's a Mealy branded one. So yeah, this has definitely been changed in 2017 or some point after. Next thing I can do then, because I need to remove the plug adapter seal, I need to push this little tab in here, and then this should pull down like so, and then now should be able to prise the plug adapter away from the Mechatronics unit. There we go, there's that removed. Comes out fairly easy, to be honest. Once you've released this, it should just prise out. It's just had in by a few O-rings. Next thing then is to start unbolting the valve body itself. Now I believe there is 10 T40 bolts. I could be wrong, but I believe there is 10. That's pretty heavy, I know that. Just lower this down. Place it on there. And with the valve body removed, we can start on the valve body seal and the Mechatronic sleeves. So to remove this, fairly easy, you should just pull off by hand. There we are, that's that removed. Let's just inspect it. Doesn't look to be too bad. I know these can suffer from cracking. But yeah, this one doesn't look too bad. Actually, saying that, this one is cracked. So if you can see that, this one is actually cracked. Now we can get started on the Mechatronic sleeves. Now you need to be very careful not to scratch the surface on the transmission, so you need to try and get some sort of tool like a pick inside of here and then prise it out. And then I'm actually going to do these one by one as well, because I believe there's 2 of these that are the same length, and then the other 2 are obviously different lengths. So I'm going to remove one, match it up with the new one, put that in, remove the next, and so on. There we are, there's one. I think this is going to be one of the shorter ones. Yeah, this is one of the ones that is the same length, so everything appears to be in order. I'm just going to push this in. You just push it in all the way and it will protrude out of the hole a couple of millimeters. The only reason that these are now flush with the face is because they've actually kind of degraded over time. So they shouldn't be recessed like this, they should actually be protruding a couple of millimeters. But let's move on to the next one. Okay, so second sleeve removed, again the shorter of the 4. That's the 2 short ones in now. And then we can install our valve body bridge seal. Now it's pretty easy to install, it can only go in one way. There we are. Okay then, so here we have the valve unit then away from the car. We have all of the bolts, and there is 10. There is 7 larger ones and then the 3 smaller ones. We have the original plug adapter, we have the original bridge seal, and we have the 4 sleeves there as well. I'm just going to give this a quick clean up and then we can go ahead and get it back on the car. Okay, so as you can see, the valve body is now back in place. Now it does help if you have a second pair of hands with this, you know, one person to hold it up while the other person puts the bolts in. You also need to make sure that the shifter lever, or lever I should say, lines up with the hole in this rod here. Well, let me see if I can show you actually. So here is how it should look. You see how this lever for the handbrake, see how it's inside of this rod here? That's how it should sit. Do not torque down the bolts until you've made sure that it sits inside of this rod here. But now that the valve body is in place, I can start torquing down the bolts. All of these T40 bolts, where are they? Yeah, these all need to be torqued down to 8 Newton meters, then another 0.8 Newton meters. So roughly 9 Newton meters in total. There is a torquing sequence like most things, so I'm going to follow that and yeah, get these tightened down properly. Number 1. Eight, 9 and 10. Okay, so that is all of the valve body bolts, all 10 of them, torqued down to 8 Newton meters. I'm just going to do an extra almost 1 Newton meter, and that'll give us the correct 8 plus 0.8 Newton meters for all 10 bolts. There we go, sorted. Okay, so I've actually went ahead and installed the plug adapter seal as well. Now I haven't pushed it home all the way yet. It's very difficult. There's next to no access. It's definitely harder to install this than it is to remove it. You can just remove it with a screwdriver, just prise it out, but to get this thing in, it's definitely a lot harder. Now there is a notch on the inside of here. You have to keep turning this around until it pushes in into the Mechatronics unit. And then what you need to do is apply pressure to the plug adapter, and then you can push this up. You won't just be able to push this up on its own. They have to be very tight, so we'll give it a go. So somehow managed to get that plug connector in. Had to give it a good old tap with the mallet, and a piece of wood managed to go in, and then this pushed straight up then. I've also reinstalled the plug itself. That just slots on and twists around and locks into position. And now it's time to install our new sump pan. So I've already gave the mating surface a good clean up just with a blade. That's all nice and smooth now. You don't need to go too crazy. Obviously we have a new gasket on the pan as well. But yeah, let's get our new pan into position. It's a good idea to put some transmission fluid around this O-ring here just to help it up a little bit easier. Now we can start installing our brand new bolts. Okay, so we have the sump pan in place now. We have all 21 bolts now in place, all of the T40 bolts around the outside. Obviously I haven't torqued them down yet because again there is a specific torquing sequence. These have to be torqued down to 10 Newton meters plus an additional 1 Newton meter, and you have to spiral outwards. So I'll start in the middle, so I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and then so on until I've worked my way around. There we go, that should be all 21 bolts torqued down to 10 Newton meters. Just going to do an additional 1 Newton meter now, so 11 Newton meters in total. There we go then, all 21 bolts torqued down to 10 Newton meters plus an additional 1 Newton meters. giving us a total of 11 Newton meters. Now it's time to start refilling this thing. Okay, so it's time to start filling now. There is actually 2 stages to this. So first thing you need to do is fill up the transmission cold, and you need to fill it up until you start to see a steady stream of fluid coming from the fill plug. So I have my little hand pump in position. I'm going to put one end into a bottle, and hopefully this end can stay in the fill hole. Now this is the part that I hate the most because it's just so damn messy, but I'm sure we'll be able to do it. Right, let's get into position. Okay, so it's the first litre gone in. Right, that's 2 litres gone in. I'm going to guess it's going to take around 4 litres while it's cold, and then once we get this up to temperature it'll probably take another 2 to 3. So far 3 litres in, just on to the 4th litre now. Oh, so we have drippage. Yeah, let's put the fill plug in. Okay, so that was around 3.5 litres to fill the pan when it's cold. Now what we need to do is head on into the car and get it fired up. Okay then, so we are inside the car now for the second stage of the filling process. Now essentially what you need to do is switch the engine on, leave your foot on the brake and cycle through the gears. So what I'm going to do, turn the engine on, foot on the brake, go from park to neutral, hold it for, I don't know, 5 seconds or so, drive, hold it for 5 seconds or so, reverse, hold it for 5 seconds or so, and then what I'll do is I'll put it into manual mode and I'll just cycle through the gears manually and hold each gear for 5 seconds. And after I've done all this, you know, gone through each gear once or so, the fluid, the transmission fluid should have gotten to where it needs to be, and it should have created a much bigger space in the transmission pan then. At which point I will then also be checking the transmission fluid temperature. I've got ISTA loaded up. If you don't have ISTA, what are you doing with yourself? You need to get ISTA if you own a BMW. But yeah, I'm going to have ISTA loaded up with the transmission fluid temperature. You need to wait for it to reach anywhere between 30 and 50 degrees Celsius before you start to fill again. What I'm actually going to do is when it gets to around 25 degrees Celsius, I'm going to get under the car, unscrew the fill plug, and then get ready to start filling again, because it takes me a while to get set up under there because there's like next to no room. So I'm going to try and give myself as much room as possible. Now ideally you do want to do this on a relatively cold day. It is only 9 degrees outside, 9 degrees Celsius that is, and it is actually raining as well, which is always nice. But yeah, this entire stage of the filling process, you do have to be quite quick because you don't want it to get over the 50 degrees Celsius, because then you're essentially out of time. You know, if that does happen, it's not the end of the world. You just have to stop filling and then let your transmission fluid temperature come back down again. But we're going to try and do it all in one take. So let's load up the transmission fluid temperature. Let me actually show you how to do it. So if you are using ISTA to load up your transmission fluid temperature, all you need to do is first of all make sure your ignition is on, as it is, and then do complete identification. This is where you scan all your modules. Pretty much the same process to do anything with ISTA. Okay, so once the vehicle test has been completed, then what you're going to want to do is go into EGS, which is the transmission module, and then you're going to want to click call up ECU functions, and then diagnosis scan, and then performance variables gearbox, and then oil temperature gearbox. We don't need that one. And then read state. As you can see, the gearbox temperature is 16 or 17 degrees Celsius. So what we want to do now then is fire the engine up, and then we're going to start holding the gears for a few seconds at a time. I'm going to go into manual as well. Yeah, I don't think I'll let us go higher than third. But there we go. That's that done. And now we just need to wait for the transmission fluid temperature to reach around 25 degrees or so. And then we can head on under the car and continue the filling process. Next one. Okay, so I'm pretty confident that that about did us. We have around half a litre left, so we've put in around 6.5 litres in total, which seems about right. But when I got up after I put the fill plug back in, I did check on ISTA, and the oil temperature did say 55 degrees. As you can see, it says 53 now. That's because the engine has switched off, so it's dropped down a little bit. But yeah, it did show 55 degrees. So I think what I'm going to do is let the oil temperature come down quite a bit, like to 30 degrees or so, and then I'm just going to loosen up the fill plug, and then just make sure that we do have a constant stream of oil coming out. I'm pretty sure we will be okay, but I just want to doubly and triply check. Okay, so a little update then. I let the transmission fluid cool down, and I released the fill plug, and then had the car running at around 40 degrees, and there was no fluid streaming out, so I actually had to add a little bit more, and I added about another 200 to 300 millilitres. As you can see, we have about 200 millilitres left, so that's around 6.8 litres in total that we've put in, and yeah, that should do us good now. When I checked the temperature after I reinserted the fill plug, it was on around 42 degrees, so that's at the perfect temperature for filling it, really. And I did, of course, insert the new fill plug. This is the old one, and then I did torque it down to 35 Newton meters. I then got back inside of the car and just shifted through the gears, let the wheels spin, and it seemed to shift absolutely fine, no issues whatsoever. Okay then guys, that is the full transmission service on the BMW 760 Ally now done. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope you've learned something at least. Once again, a massive thanks to Gearbox Oils Limited. Guys, if you need any gearbox oil, or if you want a transmission service kit, please do check these guys out. Again, there will be the links down in the description box below. That is another job done on the V12 BMW project, another thing ticked off the list. Like I said, the car is still up in the air because I have a few more jobs to do before I put it back on the ground. So if you are interested to hear my thoughts on what it's like, you know, over the coming weeks, if I notice any difference with the shifting and so on, then please do stay tuned. I want to thank all of you guys for watching. Please remember to give this video a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you have not already done so, and I will see you all in that next one. Peace!